We saw earlier in this section that when the SAT is messing with verb tense in the answer choices, it might be a difference of singulars versus plurals. So we see the tenses kind of changing here. We might want to look at the same thing. I know that be is going to be the singular version because it ends in S. I also know that is ends in S. That's a singular verb as well. But the other two, A and D, these are weirder. These are ones that don't really have a singular or plural because in other tenses in English, singulars and plurals don't always matter, right? So we could say he looked good or they looked good, right? It doesn't matter whether we're talking about one person or multiple people. Either way, we're going to use the same verb. That's different in that past tense than it would be for choice B. There, we would say he looks good, but they looks good? That would be wrong, right? That sounds terrible. We would say they look good. So notice in the present tense, which is choice B, the singular plural matters. But in past tense, A, it does not matter. It's just the way English works. It's weird. I don't know what to do about it. But it probably means that we might need to think about singulars and plurals here, but we also might need to just think bigger picture about the tense of the verb, past, present, future. So I really don't know, but let's take a look at the sentence and hopefully we'll figure something out. Author Madeleine L'Engle, oh boy, so then there's a comma, that's weird. Something to create a suspenseful tone that draws the reader in, begins her novel A Wrinkle in Time with the descriptions of wraith-like shadows and the frenzied lashing of the wind. So this is sneaky. That comma right after Engle is going to affect the structure of the sentence. The real sentence here is basically this person's name, author Madeleine L'Engle, begins her novel Wrinkle in Time with descriptions of wraith-like shadows and the frenzied lashing of the wind. So there is my main sentence. Now, all that stuff in the middle is extra. We are using commas both at the beginning and at the end to show where this interruption to our sentence begins and ends. And basically what it's doing is providing a little extra information, a little bit more description about what Engle is doing. So for this case, we need to just kind of, I think, just sound it out, and one will hopefully sound better. The answer is D, because we need an ing verb to kind of soften this. The main verb of the sentence here is begins. We have a subject in this author, Madeleine L'Engle, and then the singular person, right? Author, this Madeleine is singular, and then begins is the singular verb. So that part of the sentence, the subject verb is already paired off and set, and that's getting the sentence under control. So what we want to do here is use a weaker verb, and ing verbs tend to do that. They are verbs without taking over the sentence. They're more descriptive than they are like the actual action of the sentence. So here, hopefully it sounds good to you. Author Madeleine L'Engle, looking to create a suspenseful tone that draws the reader in, begins her novel A Wrinkle in Time with descriptions of wraith-like shadows and the frenzied lashing of the wind. That verb tense is allowing this piece that I didn't highlight to just be kind of an extra throwaway clause. If we put the other ones in, we're going to mess with the structure of the sentence. I think A is maybe the trap. Author Madeleine L'Engle looked to create a suspenseful tone that draws the reader in. If we stop there and ignore the fact that there's now a comma with some extra stuff, we might think that that sounds good. The problem is we need the part that's after the comma, the other piece in yellow, to understand the actual structure of this sentence. So if we plug choice A in, we are ignoring the comma after her name and pretending it doesn't exist. And then we're creating a new sentence where the subject is still the author's name, but now the main verb of that sentence is looked. And that's not good. We can't do that because that comma is there. It's like a barrier. It's like a barrier that divides those two things. And we can't have the subject on one side of that barrier and the verb on another. But we can have it when we think about the yellow, because we start the barrier with that first comma and we kind of close it with the second one. And so we've kind of returned to the main sentence, and that allows those subject and verb to be separated technically by other words, but in terms of the structure of the sentence, they're actually really right next to each other, and that's what makes that the sentence. This is tricky, but it's a reminder that you always need to read the complete full sentence, capital letter to period. If the passage is longer and has some extra sentences, you might be able to skip those for the grammar questions, but for any grammar question, especially ones with punctuation or verb tenses, you need to think about the entire structure of the sentence, and the SAT might be trying to get you to quit early, to kind of just take a shortcut shortcut that isn't a real shortcut by giving you these kind of trap answers that maybe create different versions of the sentence that aren't quite what the SAT is going for. So we need to get capital letter to period to see how all these clauses interact to form the main sentence. It's tricky, but most will not be like this. If you got this wrong, don't worry about it for now.